If you're looking to build a home in North Central West Virginia, visit askvisionhomes.com. Vision Homes, building you a house you're proud to call home. And don't forget to subscribe to the Ryan and Rush Show, but don't take our word for it. Take Coach Nealon's.
Hi, this is Coach Don Nealon, and you're watching the Ryan and Rush Show. Please subscribe.
And we welcome you into another edition of the Ryan and Rush Show. West Virginia, Big 12, and college sports in 10 minutes or less. Guaranteed, Ryan, the fun or lack thereof continues. Matt Umis of VSiN today, a guy you're familiar with. You've been on his show before. Of course, an experienced journalist, worked for some of the big networks in the past, has reported that his sourcing says that Neal Brown will be let go at the end of the season. This, well, doesn't really surprise a lot of folks, especially after his comments last week. But let me ask you this question, Ryan. Is there any shot in the world Neal Brown can save himself?
Yeah, I guess that is a great question, Rush. I think if they did win out, if they won their last 5 and got to 8-4, I think that could save him. Maybe 7-5 if they won 4 out of 5. I think going into the year, we talked about it where if they got to 6-6, it would have mattered who they beat, how they played, and it just does not look good. Like I know that your record is what your record is, but blowing the Pitt game, losing a 10-point lead the way you lost that one, that win in the fans' minds and the people emotionally almost counts as 2 wins. I mean, the backyard brawl, and then just not being competitive at all in these big-time home games in year 6 with Penn State, Iowa State, K-State. We went through the track record last year of just our 8-12 home Big 12 home record, losing by 15.5 points during his era. So it's just like the era, just the brand of football. People are as down as I can ever remember it, man.
Dude, the problem is too, it's not like they're just down in Morgantown or among Mountaineer Nation itself. Like, dude, it's embarrassing. We've become a little bit of a laughing stock on the national media stage. I mean, here's the thing. If those comments weren't made on Monday of last week, then yeah, probably he figures out if he goes 7-5, he'll save his job and we see him again next year. Those comments they change everything. And even if he wins out, I just don't see how he's coming back. He turned a lot of people off that can't be saved. I mean, it was just too little, too late. And then especially you have 2 Fox games in a row in Morgantown. And especially the last one against Kansas State, you would flat out embarrass yourself in that one. Man, I just the writing's on the wall. I hope he hasn't lost his team because, like I said, I think regardless, he's out. So in that case, right, some of the fans, which I don't necessarily agree with. I get where they're coming from, but I don't agree with, right, the short-term pain for long-term success, kind of wanted to lose out so that Neal Brown has to go. But like I said, the comments kind of change anything. So now, I hope this team hasn't given up on them. You kind of started to see signs of it in the second half of last game, but I do want to go to the bowl. It does bring in money for your program. And like I said, I mean, you just go 6-6, whatever it is. It's not like you'd be coaching the bowl game and you can move on from there. So you might as well at least get a little bit of revenue if it's a foregone conclusion that he's out of there, like I believe it is. The question you have to ask yourself is what type of team that you're dealing with down the stretch. And the problem is we saw it in the Iowa State game. We saw it in the Kansas State game, right? The Iowa State game, we missed the field goal to go up 10-0. It was never the same after that. And against Kansas State, we decided to not kick the field goal, try to tie it up 17 all at halftime. Don't get it. They don't come back from that, right? So a team in which we saw last year where they would face some adversity and sometimes it would get them fired up. It would get them going. They would come back and win. That same fight doesn't exist. And now they have to go across country, then a bye week, which sometimes can hurt you. You don't get it. And then, I don't know what it looks like after that.
I'm with you. It's going to kind of take a miracle. Just people are out, man. And when people are out, when your fan base quits on you, your team in the second half quits on you after the week you had, it just doesn't feel like he's going to be able to save himself. And I think that creates the next conversation is where do we go from here? And we'll break down the candidates when the time is right. But we're in such an era where NIL, transfer portal, conference expansion, it can change at the drop of a hat. You got to be relevant. You can't. This is not the time to fall behind and have 6-6 seasons, 5-7 seasons, and just be average. You never know when the next wave of expansion is. And also with the NIL, trying to get our fan base to buy in to not only paying all this, and everybody listening right now can relate to this, not only paying for season tickets. So you got to pay for your season tickets. You got to pay for your parking. You got to pay for food and beverages when you get to the stadium. That's already enough. Then they're asking you, well, you got to give a little bit more. You got to give to the NIL collective. The fan, the businessmen, these guys may be rich. They may have a lot of money, but they're a businessman for a reason. They're going to look at what we did with the basketball roster in the winter and the non-successful return on investment we had there. Then the return on investment that was poor this year with football. A lot of guys are going to say, why am I going to keep giving you money when I'm not getting anything in return? And you need to show me something. You need to prove it. And then it's going to turn into, well, we don't have the resources. We don't have the NIL to win. And it's just a bad cycle. So this is a pivotal next couple months for this program and just the future and trajectory of the NIL era that we're in.
So it's not okay. Golf brings up a couple interesting points and questions right here. I think the reason that you do keep Neal Brown through the rest of the season, right, is you would save, give or take $700,000 on a potential buyout. However, on the other hand, especially if they don't do well against Arizona this week, sometimes that can be negotiated and could work in West Virginia's favor, where it's like, all right, Neal, you don't have to coach the rest of the season. You're let off the hook. Let's go to that $9.5 million buyout, or let's agree on some sort of payout there. So it can be used both ways there. But personally, if you ask me who would be the interim till, the coaching candidate search would begin, I think you would probably fire Neal Brown and Jordan Leslie together. I think people have been really hard on Leslie. I get where they're coming from, but sometimes too, I think he's taken a little bit of the scapegoat, at least earlier in the season. My guess is you would probably make Chad Scott the interim, because it's not sometimes you're looking for the best interim. It's the guy who's done the least amount of harm, right? And, he doesn't even call the plays. He's a well-liked guy. They would probably give him an opportunity to take over. That would personally be my guess. They just got to figure out what makes the most financial sense here. And, I think the writing is on the wall, like we're talking about, Ryan. So in that case, when you know that it's time to move on then from the cycle that is Neal Brown, it would be nice to at least get some bowl game revenue.
No doubt. And it's like everybody's saying in the chat, who will replace him? That's going to be the $1 million question. There's going to be plenty of time to talk about that. But also the reality is you're really not going to get that guy in here right away, because most of the guys we're going to be looking at are going to be playing in that college football playoff,
sure,
whether they're a head coach at one of these G5s, or I know everybody talks about Cignetti at Indiana. But then also you're looking at coordinators that are a part of successful teams. They're going to be a part of the college football playoff. So most likely you hire guys that have won, and most of the guys that are winning are getting ready for the college football playoff. And it'll be more of a December topic, in my opinion.
Yeah, Gary makes a point here that we're losing a bunch of guys next year. In the transfer portal NIL era, that doesn't matter. The new coach is going to bring in his guys. You can turn things around overnight. So I don't think that's anything to worry about here. The beard makes an interesting point, but I'll counter it. You cut your loss. If you let a cavity linger, you fix it immediately. But what I'll say is, if you have a cavity and you need it fixed, but if you wait a month and you'd have better insurance and you wouldn't have to pay out of pocket, then I'm going to deal with a cavity for another month, right? Sometimes it is about price point in getting, what financially makes most sense for West Virginia in the age of paying players, and you need as much resources as you possibly can have. And this is about long-term success now. It's a new era and you got to embrace it, whether you like it or not. So anyway, everyone, again, we appreciate the support as always. Thank you to the chat for popping off as you usually do. We'll see you again tomorrow. And hey, let's go Mountaineers.
Let's go Mountaineers, guys.